Imagine demanding a full refund because the pizza was actually too hot, or reporting a driver just because he was breathing up all your porch oxygen during winter. These people walk among us, and their reasons for one-star reviews will make you question reality. We dug deep to find the most unhinged feedback ever recorded, where customers panic over sidewalk shadows and get offended by genuine smiles. You might think you are picky, but the level of delusion in this list is terrifying. Get ready to lose your faith in humanity because these 61 absurd complaints are 100% real. 1. A spiritual woman filed a serious complaint against her delivery driver not for the food. It was for his soul. She stated the burger was cooked perfectly. However, the man standing on her porch had a murky gray aura. She claimed his cloudy energy violently clashed with her home's meticulously cleansed chakras. When he handed over the bag, she felt a deep disturbance in the universe. She had to sage the entire entryway for 3 hours just to reset the vibes. The driver had simply been tired from a 12-hour shift. She demanded a refund for the spiritual pollution he caused. Does a gray aura taste like burnt fries or just sadness? 2. A pretentious artistic man was absolutely furious when his taco order arrived in a vehicle he deemed offensive. He watched from the window as the driver pulled up in a beige sedan. He argued that beige is an incredibly uninspired color for a taco delivery. It ruined his entire appetite. He told customer service that he expected a car with passion like red, or at least a spicy orange. The driver was just using his grandmother's old reliable car to pay for college. The man refused to eat the tacos because they now felt aesthetically boring to his sensitive eyes. Is beige actually the official color of disappointment? 3. A suburban dad filed a weird complaint about lawn disrespect. He watched the driver walk up the pavement perfectly. But then he noticed the driver's shadow fell onto his pristine Kentucky bluegrass. The dad claimed the shadow blocked essential photosynthesis for 3 seconds. He shouted that his grass was now traumatized by the darkness. The driver had no idea how to control the sun or his own silhouette. The dad demanded the driver come back and apologize to the turf. It was just a shadow, but the dad felt it was a personal attack on his landscaping skills. Does a shadow actually leave a permanent stain on a man's pride? 4. An obsessive woman called support in a panic about the paper bag. The food inside was fine, but the bag had a sharp crease in the corner. She screamed that she ordered a smooth and unblemished presentation. She accused the driver of reckless handling that ruined her unboxing experience. The driver had simply buckled the food in to keep it safe. The woman claimed the wrinkle mocked her need for perfection. She refused to open it because the aesthetic was compromised. She felt the wrinkled paper was a sign of a wrinkled life. Why does a tiny fold in paper cause a massive fold in someone's sanity? 5. A sensitive young man felt emotionally neglected during his lunch drop-off. The driver handed him the food and simply said, "Here you go." The customer was devastated because he expected to hear "enjoy your meal." He claimed without that specific command he physically could not do so. He sat at his table staring at the burger in total despair. The driver was just trying to be polite. The young man felt the transaction lacked the emotional closure he paid for. He believed the food was cursed with indifference. Can a sandwich actually taste good if nobody explicitly gives you permission to like it? 6. A dog owner was furious that the delivery driver was too quiet. Her golden retriever barked loudly at the man at the door. The driver smiled but remained silent. The woman complained that he didn't bark back at the dog. She claimed this proved he had zero command over animals. She argued that a real professional would assert dominance by howling. The driver was terrified of dogs and just wanted to leave alive. The woman felt his silence was weak and confused her pet. She demanded a driver who could speak fluent canine next time. Should delivery training include a mandatory course on howling at strangers' pets? 7. A tech snob refused to accept his order based on digital prejudice. He looked out the window and saw the driver holding an Android phone. The customer had ordered from his latest iPhone. He claimed their energies were now completely incompatible. He feared the green bubbles would contaminate his premium lifestyle. The driver was just checking the GPS to find the right house. The customer locked the door and shouted that he couldn't risk the cross-platform pollution. He demanded the food be redelivered by someone within the Apple ecosystem. Do digital operating systems really change the flavor profile of a pepperoni pizza? 8. An anxious grandmother peered through her curtains and panicked immediately. The delivery boy was wearing athletic running shoes. She called the police and the app support because she wondered what he was running from. She felt his footwear implied he was fleeing a crime scene. It made her heart race with unnecessary stress. The driver just wore them because they were comfortable for walking all day. The old woman refused to open the door until he put on loafers. She claimed fast shoes meant he was a fast criminal. Is it possible to be too ready for a sprint during a casual dinner delivery? 9. A suspicious neighbor watched the delivery car arrive with deep distrust. The driver parked perfectly parallel to the curb in one smooth motion. The man filed a complaint stating it looked like a getaway car maneuver. He argued that nobody parks that well unless they are planning a bank heist. He believed the precision was unnatural and threatening to the neighborhood. The driver was actually just a really good driver who took pride in his skills. The man hid behind his sofa waiting for the sirens to start. Does a perfect parking job always imply a life of high-stakes crime? 10. A migraine-suffering woman was outraged by the sound of her own doorbell. The driver rang the bell once to announce the food. She hadn't left a note saying not to ring it. However, she claimed he should have telepathically sensed she had a headache. She screamed that the chime felt like a hammer to her brain. The driver stood there confused while she held her head in agony. She accused him of lacking basic psychic intuition. She demanded he pay for her aspirin and emotional damages. Is it the driver's job to deliver food or to read the minds of strangers? 11. A hungry woman was furious that her pizza arrived fresh. She took one big bite and burned her tongue instantly. She immediately blamed the driver for reckless speeding. She claimed the cheese was molten lava only because he drove like a maniac. If he had driven the speed limit, the pizza would have cooled down to a safe temperature. She demanded he pay for her medical treatment for a numb tongue. The driver had just used a high-quality insulated bag to keep it warm. She called the police to report a case of thermal assault. Is a pizza actually a dangerous weapon if you have to blow on it first? 12. A paranoid man refused to eat his burrito because of the driver's eyes. The driver looked down while handing over the bag. The customer felt this lack of eye contact was a confession of guilt. He was convinced the driver knew his deepest and darkest secrets. He shouted that only a spy would look at the ground. The driver was actually just shy and socially anxious. The man threw the food away because he felt judged by the silence. He demanded a driver who would stare into his soul next time. Does looking at your shoes make you an international spy or just awkward? 13. A cat lady was jealous of the delivery driver's popularity. A stray cat on her porch ignored her and rubbed against the driver's leg. She was outraged that he possessed such animal magnetism. She accused him of stealing the affection of her neighborhood pets. She claimed he was hoarding all the feline love for himself. The driver was allergic to cats and tried to step away. She wrote a bad review stating he was a thief of joy. She demanded he return the cat's loyalty immediately. Can you actually sue a stranger because a street cat likes their pants better than yours? 14. A tech-illiterate old man blamed the driver for his frozen phone screen. The delivery app crashed right as the food arrived. The man screamed that the driver brought a bad signal with him. He believed the driver's car was jamming his Wi-Fi connection. He refused to take the food until his screen worked again. The driver tried to explain that he wasn't a walking cell tower. The man insisted his phone was fine until the car pulled up. He demanded the driver fix the internet or leave. Do delivery drivers carry invisible force fields that destroy electronic devices? 15. A short man felt personally attacked by the driver's genetics. He opened the door and had to look straight up. The driver was extremely tall and had to duck under the porch light. The customer claimed he felt physically intimidated by the height difference. He argued that the app should filter drivers by size. He felt like a child accepting a snack from a giant. The driver was just a gentle basketball player making extra money. The man slammed the door to regain his sense of power. Should tall people be required to kneel down when delivering to shorter customers? 16. A bitter mother was offended by the back of the driver's car. She saw a bumper sticker that said, "Honor Student on board." She immediately felt the driver was bragging about his kids. She screamed that she didn't order a side of arrogance with her fries. She claimed it was rude to flaunt academic success on her property. The driver had bought the car used and never removed the sticker. The woman demanded he scrape it off before leaving the driveway. She felt her own average children were being mocked. Is a bumper sticker ever a direct insult to your family's intelligence? 17. A grumpy hipster refused to tip because of a rhythm. The driver knocked on the door using the classic shave and a haircut beat. The customer opened the door with a look of pure disgust. He complained that he hates cliches more than cold food. He claimed the knock was unoriginal and lacked artistic integrity. He argued that a unique knock shows a creative soul. The driver was just trying to be friendly and fun. The hipster slammed the door and ate his dinner in silence. Does a rhythmic knock on a door prove that you have absolutely no personality? 18. A nervous woman was terrified by the sound of her drink. She heard the ice clinking loudly as the driver approached. She claimed he walked with way too much bounce in his step. She argued that a happy walk indicates a chaotic mind. She worried that the aggressive walking had bruised the ice cubes. The driver was just having a really good day. The woman refused to drink the soda because it sounded shaken. She demanded a driver who shuffles their feet to keep the liquid silent. Can you actually hear the difference between happy ice and sad ice in a cup? 19. An environmentalist neighbor was angry about the cold weather. She looked outside and saw the driver's breath in the winter air. She filed a formal complaint that he was using up her porch oxygen. She claimed his visible exhalations were polluting her personal atmosphere. She screamed that he was breathing too heavily near her plants. The driver was simply trying to survive the freezing temperature. She demanded he hold his breath from the car to the door. She felt he was stealing the air she paid for. Is it really theft if you breathe the air on someone else's property? 20. A germaphobe screamed when she saw a tiny fly. The insect buzzed around the driver as he waited at the door. The woman accused him of bringing an unauthorized passenger. She claimed he trained the fly to invade her home. She refused to open the screen door until the airspace was clear. The driver tried to wave the bug away, but it wouldn't leave. She demanded a refund because the delivery experience was contaminated. She felt the fly was a spy sent by the restaurant. Do flies actually view delivery drivers as their own personal Uber service? 21. A sensitive audiophile was appalled by a digital noise. The driver scanned the paper bag and his phone emitted a sharp beep. The customer covered his sensitive ears and claimed it was an assault. He shouted that he preferred a soft, organic chime or a harp sound. He argued that the sharp beep disturbed his digestion process before eating. The driver just had his volume up to hear the app clearly. The man demanded the driver download a soothing jazz ringtone immediately. He felt the beep was too aggressive for a salad delivery. Does a loud phone notification actually cause permanent damage to a man's delicate soul? 22. An insecure woman felt deeply judged by a facial expression. The driver handed her the pasta and smiled genuinely at her. She interpreted this warmth as a direct mockery of her life. She claimed he was laughing at her inability to cook dinner. She felt his happiness highlighted her own domestic failures in the kitchen. The driver was just a naturally happy person who liked his job. The woman slammed the door and cried into her fettuccine. She demanded a driver who looked miserable to match her mood. Is a friendly smile actually a secret weapon used to shame lazy cooks? 23. A control freak monitored the delivery map like a hawk. He saw the driver take a left turn instead of going straight. He screamed at his phone screen in pure frustration. He didn't care that the GPS said it was faster. He argued that he prefers the geometry of a straight route. The driver was just avoiding a massive pothole in the road. The man refused to tip because the route was crooked. He felt the integrity of the pizza was compromised by the turn. Can a simple left turn actually ruin the flavor of a pepperoni pizza? 24. A homeowner was disgusted by the driver's foot placement. The man stepped directly on the word welcome on the doormat. The customer watched through the peephole and gasped in horror. He claimed the text was for reading and not for stepping. He shouted that the driver should have balanced on the rubber border. The driver just had big feet and didn't look down. The customer felt his hospitality was trampled by a sneaker. He demanded the driver come back and clean the word welcome. Is stepping on a doormat actually a sign of deep disrespect to the house? 25. A spiritual guru was horrified by the placement of plastic. The driver placed the drink straw right on top of the bag. The customer claimed this blocked the flow of energy. She shouted that feng shui dictates the straw must go on the side. She believed the top placement severed the chai of the burger. The driver was just trying to keep everything in one hand. The woman refused to touch the bag until the energy settled. She felt the meal was now spiritually unbalanced. Does bad straw placement actually curse a meal with negative vibes? 26. A suspicious man was unsettled by the driver's punctuality. The app said arrival at 6 o'clock and the driver rang the bell instantly. The customer looked at his watch and felt a chill. He claimed arriving exactly on time felt robotic and unnatural. He argued that he prefers a human margin of error. The driver was just really good at managing traffic. The man refused to eat because he feared the driver was an android. He demanded a driver who was at least 5 minutes late. Is being perfectly on time actually a sign that you are a robot? 27. A relaxation enthusiast was furious about a gust of air. The driver opened his car door quickly to get the food. The sudden motion caused a breeze that hit the porch. The customer screamed as his wind chimes tangled together. He claimed the chaotic noise ruined his meditation session. He blamed the driver for disrupting the peace of the garden. The driver had no control over physics or the weather. The man demanded the driver untangle the chimes before leaving. Can opening a car door really be considered a violent attack on wind chimes? 28. A selfish businessman was offended by a simple question. The driver politely asked if he had a phone charger available. The customer looked at him with pure disdain. He shouted that he is a paying customer and not a power station. He claimed the request drained his emotional energy immediately. The driver was just at 1% and needed to scan the order. The man slammed the door and called corporate. He felt the driver was trying to steal his electricity. Is asking for a quick charge actually a form of modern corporate theft? 29. A cozy woman was upset by the smell of nature. The driver arrived smelling like fresh rain in the outdoors. The customer sniffed the air and recoiled in disgust. She claimed she ordered comfort food and not a nature walk. She argued that the fresh scent clashed with her greasy cravings. The driver had just walked through a storm to deliver the meal. The woman felt guilty for being dry and hated that feeling. She demanded the driver smell like fry oil next time. Does smelling too fresh actually ruin the experience of eating junk food? 30. A paranoid woman heard noise coming from the car. She realized the driver was listening to a true crime podcast. She grabbed her burger and felt a wave of fear. She claimed she didn't want murder vibes near her dinner. She argued that the stories of crime seeped into the meat. The driver was just trying to stay awake during the shift. The woman threw the food away to be safe. She felt the burger now tasted like an unsolved mystery. Can listening to a scary story actually haunt a cheeseburger? 31. A strict homeowner watched the delivery monitor with critical eyes. The driver reached out and opened the front gate using his left hand. The customer gasped because the latch was clearly designed for right-handed people. He shouted that the driver was using the mechanism backwards. He claimed this awkward angle put unnecessary stress on the iron hinge. The driver was actually left-handed and didn't think twice about it. The man demanded a full safety inspection for his gate immediately before eating. He felt the improper usage had tainted the entrance of his home forever. Does using the wrong hand to open a gate actually break the laws of physics? 32. A perfectionist accountant examined his paper bag like a crime scene investigator. He noticed the tamper-proof seal was applied at a slight angle. He screamed that a crooked sticker indicates a deeply chaotic mind. He refused to trust the food inside the package. He argued that if the driver couldn't align a sticker, he couldn't drive safely. The driver had just slapped it on quickly to keep the fries hot. The man demanded a refund for the psychological distress of asymmetry. He felt the crooked line was a bad omen. Is a slanted sticker actually a sign of total mental collapse? 33. A nervous woman felt a literal spark during her dinner exchange. Her fingers didn't even touch the driver, but the static electricity snapped. She jumped back and accused him of electrocuting her on purpose. She claimed he was carrying too much electrical charge in his body. She worried the voltage had cooked her sushi. The driver had just slid off a fabric car seat in dry weather. The woman rubbed her arm and demanded he ground himself. She felt the shock was a physical assault on her nervous system. Can a tiny spark of static actually cook a raw fish roll? 34. An empathetic woman felt a crushing wave of guilt at the door. The driver stood there wearing a bright yellow raincoat dripping with water. She looked at her dry hallway and felt like a villain. She complained that his protective gear made her feel too privileged. She argued that he shouldn't remind her of the storm outside. The driver was just happy to stay dry while working. The woman lost her appetite because she felt like a cruel queen. She demanded drivers wear normal clothes to hide their suffering. Is keeping your clothes dry actually an act of emotional manipulation? 35. A futuristic tech enthusiast was deeply disappointed by biology. He opened the door, expecting a high-tech drone to drop his package. Instead, he saw a regular human breathing and standing there. He filed a complaint stating that he honestly thought the future was here. He argued that interacting with a person was inefficient and old-fashioned. The driver was just a guy trying to pay his rent. The man slammed the door feeling lied to by the app. He demanded a robot next time to avoid social interaction. Is being a real human being now considered a customer service failure? 36. A superstitious barber refused to accept his lunch order. He noticed the delivery driver had his hair parted on the left side. The customer claimed he only trusts people who part their hair on the right. He argued that a left part indicates a deceptive nature. He believed the food was likely poisoned or tampered with. The driver had just styled his hair that way since kindergarten. The man demanded the driver comb it over before handing the bag. He felt the hairstyle was a red flag. Does the direction of a hair part actually determine a person's moral character? 37. A car enthusiast felt cheated by the sound of the delivery. The driver arrived in an electric vehicle that made absolutely no noise. The customer complained that he didn't hear the cool vroom sound he loved. He argued that a silent car lacks the necessary masculine power. He claimed he needed the engine roar to prepare his stomach for meat. The driver was just saving money on expensive gas. The man refused to tip because the arrival was underwhelming. He felt the silence was a sign of weak food. Can a quiet engine actually make a steak taste less manly? 38. An entomophobic woman screamed when she opened her front door. The driver was standing directly under the bright porch light. She pointed out that his position was attracting a swarm of moths. She accused him of being a beacon for unwanted winged pests. She claimed he was leading an invasion of insects into her home. The driver was just trying to read the receipt in the light. The woman slammed the door to block the bugs. She demanded he stand in the dark next time to stay invisible. Is it the driver's fault that moths love a glowing light bulb? 39. An overthinking man spiraled into a crisis over paper products. The driver handed him a bag containing exactly 2 napkins. The customer felt this specific number was a confusing psychological game. He wondered if the driver thought he was a messy eater. Or perhaps the driver thought he wasn't messy enough to deserve more. The driver just grabbed a random handful from the stack. The man stared at the napkins trying to decode the insult. He felt judged by the portion control of paper. Does the number of napkins you receive actually define your worth as a human being? 40. A frantic woman watched the GPS tracker with high intensity. The driver parked and walked up the path at a leisurely pace. She screamed that his walking speed completely lacked urgency. She argued that she wants her delivery driver to sprint to the door. She claimed his casual stroll disrespected her hunger levels. The driver was just tired and had bad knees. The woman felt his slowness made the food taste like laziness. She demanded he run laps to prove his dedication. Should delivery drivers be required to run like Olympic athletes for a $3 tip? 41. A mystic woman was offended by the driver's lack of celestial awareness. He delivered her tacos during a powerful full moon. However, he acted like it was just a normal, boring Tuesday. She screamed that he needed to read the room in the sky. She claimed his casual energy blocked the lunar blessings she was manifesting. The driver just wanted to drop off the food and go home. She demanded he howl or at least look crazy. She felt his sanity was an insult to the moon. Is ignoring the lunar cycle actually a form of spiritual negligence? 42. A rugged construction worker felt deeply insecure during the handoff. He noticed the driver's fingernails were perfectly manicured and shiny. The customer shouted that a working man shouldn't have better cuticles than him. He claimed the soft hands insulted his own rough and callous palms. He argued that the driver clearly didn't work hard enough to deserve a tip. The driver just took good care of his hygiene. The man refused to touch the bag to avoid contamination. He demanded a driver with dirt under their nails. Do clean cuticles actually prove that a man has never done a hard day's work? 43. A messy homeowner was furious about the technology on the car. The driver pulled up with modern and blindingly bright LED headlights. The beams were so powerful they illuminated layers of dust on her windows. She screamed that she didn't want to see her own filth at night. She accused the driver of exposing her poor housekeeping habits to the neighborhood. The driver couldn't help that his car came with safety lights. She demanded he dim them to hide her shame. She felt the light was a judgment. Is high visibility actually a direct attack on people who hate cleaning windows? 44. An aspiring influencer was outraged by a missed content opportunity. She watched the footage from her smart doorbell security camera. The driver walked up but didn't wave or dance for the lens. She screamed that she needed viral content for her TikTok account immediately. She claimed his boring walk deprived her of likes and views. The driver was just doing his job and not performing a show. She left a 1-star review for his lack of star power. She demanded he come back and do a backflip. Is every delivery driver legally required to be an unpaid actor for your social media? 45. A neurotic customer inspected the inside of his paper bag. He noticed the container of French fries was leaning slightly to the left. He admitted that gravity exists, but argued the driver should have fought it. He shouted that a true professional would defy physics to keep the potato upright. He claimed the tilt ruined the structural integrity of the salt. The driver had driven safely, but couldn't control the laws of motion. The man felt the leaning fries were a sign of a leaning moral compass. Should delivery drivers be held responsible for the relentless pull of the Earth's gravity? 46. A fragile young woman felt verbally assaulted by a text message. The driver messaged her, "I'm here," to let her know he arrived. She panicked and claimed the exclamation point was way too aggressive. She screamed that he was yelling at her through the screen. She argued that a period would have been calm and professional. The driver was just trying to be enthusiastic and helpful. She refused to go outside until he sent a calmer text. She felt the punctuation mark was a threat to her safety. Can a single vertical line with a dot actually hurt your feelings? 47. An eco-spiritualist ran out of her house waving her arms. The driver had parked his sedan directly under her massive old oak tree. She screamed that she didn't want his car emitting bad vibes into the roots. She claimed the mechanical energy was disturbing the tree's ancient wisdom. She argued that the exhaust fumes were choking the spirit of the wood. The driver was just looking for a spot of shade. She demanded he apologize to the branches before leaving. She felt the tree was now depressed. Do cars actually whisper negative thoughts into the root systems of trees? 48. A tattoo snob was deeply disappointed by the driver's ink. She saw a generic tribal band on his bicep when he handed the bag. She filed a complaint stating she prefers drivers with original artwork. She claimed the cliché design showed a lack of imagination and depth. She argued that she couldn't eat food delivered by someone with basic taste. The driver got the tattoo 20 years ago and didn't care. The woman felt the uninspired art ruined the creativity of the chef. Does having a bad tattoo actually change the artistic presentation of a spicy tuna roll? 49. A hyper-anxious man panicked about a hypothetical postal disaster. The driver parked his car 3 feet away from the street mailbox. The customer screamed that he was blocking the flow of federal mail. He shouted that the mailman might come at any second. It was 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday, but the man didn't care. The driver tried to explain that the post office was closed. The man demanded he move the car to prevent a federal offense. He felt the mail system was under attack. Is it possible to block a mailman who is currently sleeping in his bed? 50. A gluttonous man felt betrayed by the laws of mass. He took the bag from the driver and his face fell. He admitted the driver didn't steal anything, but the heft was disappointing. He screamed that he imagined the bag would feel much heavier in his hands. He claimed the lack of physical weight made the meal feel cheap. The driver had delivered exactly what was ordered on the receipt. The man demanded the restaurant add bricks to the bag next time. He felt the lightness was an insult to his hunger. Can a meal be delicious if it doesn't strain your bicep? 51. An insecure woman analyzed her delivery confirmation photo with horror. The driver had taken a picture of the food at her doorstep as proof. However, she claimed the low camera angle made her front door look fat. She shouted that the perspective was unflattering to her home's architecture. She accused the driver of intentionally shaming her entryway dimensions. The driver was just crouching down to get the food in the frame. She demanded he retake the photo from a slimming high angle. She felt her house now looked overweight to the internet. Can a wide lens actually make a wooden door look self-conscious? 52. A vampire enthusiast was furious about the lighting conditions. The driver stood on the porch in a way that blocked the moonlight. The customer claimed he stole the ambiance of the night. She screamed that she needed the lunar glow to enjoy her rare steak. She argued that his silhouette created a shadow of despair. The driver had no idea he was eclipsing the moon. She refused to tip because the mood was ruined. She felt the darkness he cast was personal. Is blocking a beam of moonlight actually a theft of atmospheric property? 53. A music snob judged the driver's fashion choices harshly. The young man was wearing a faded t-shirt featuring a band she stopped liking in 2018. She filed a complaint, claiming his taste was outdated and offensive. She argued that seeing that logo made her lose her appetite for cool food. She screamed that she couldn't respect a person who still listened to that album. The driver just wore it because it was clean laundry. She demanded he wear a plain shirt to remain neutral. Does wearing an old band shirt actually make the food taste like yesterday's news? 54. A protective homeowner was outraged by tire marks. The driver turned his car around in the driveway to leave. The customer screamed that now his driveway had tire memory of the stranger's car. He claimed the asphalt would never forget the weight of that sedan. He argued that the spiritual imprint of the rubber was permanent. The driver was just trying to avoid backing into traffic. The man demanded the driver come back and erase the invisible tracks. He felt his driveway was now haunted by the turn. Can a driveway actually suffer from PTSD because a car turned around? 55. A fast food connoisseur was suspicious of the cleanliness. He inspected the paper bag and found 0 grease stains on the bottom. He screamed that he doesn't trust fast food that doesn't stain the paper. He claimed the lack of oil meant the food was fake or healthy. He argued that real flavor always leaves a translucent mark of guilt. The driver had just handled the bag carefully. The man refused to eat it because it looked too sterile. He demanded a refund for the missing cholesterol evidence. Is a burger actually real if it doesn't try to destroy the bag it came in? 56. A narcissistic customer was unsatisfied with the gratitude shown. He handed the driver a $1 tip and waited for applause. He complained that the driver didn't look grateful enough for the coin. He screamed that the man should have bowed or wept with joy. He claimed the lack of theatrics was a direct insult to his generosity. The driver was just trying to stay professional and leave. The man demanded a handwritten thank you note for the single dollar. He felt his charity was wasted on an ungrateful soul. Is a $1 tip worth a full theatrical performance of gratitude? 57. A traumatized woman couldn't separate her past from her pizza. She opened the door and gasped because the driver looked slightly like her ex-boyfriend's cousin. She screamed that she couldn't eat the food now. She claimed his face brought back memories of a bad breakup years ago. She argued that the resemblance tainted the pepperoni with heartbreak. The driver had never met her or her ex in his life. She threw the pizza away to cleanse her emotional palate. She demanded the app filter drivers by facial structure. Can a stranger's nose actually trigger a romantic crisis? 58. A homeowner with poor signage was offended by eyesight. The driver squinted his eyes trying to read the house number in the dark. The customer shouted from the window asking why he was judging the house. He claimed the squint was a look of disgust and criticism. He argued that his 4-inch numbers were perfectly adequate. The driver just had bad vision, and it was nighttime. The man felt the facial expression was a critique of his property value. Is squinting at a wall actually a silent way of saying you hate the architecture? 59. A dramatic romantic was heartbroken by the exit. The driver handed over the food and walked away without looking back. The customer claimed it felt exactly like a brutal breakup. He screamed that a glance over the shoulder would have shown care. He argued that walking away straight meant the transaction meant nothing to him. The driver was just focused on getting to the next order. The man ate his meal feeling abandoned and used. He demanded drivers wave goodbye to provide closure. Does a food delivery really need an emotional farewell scene to feel complete? 60. A manifestation guru was furious at the universe's error. She had spent all morning manifesting a driver named Michael. When the app showed the name Kyle, she filed a complaint. She screamed that the universe had failed her specific request. She claimed the name Kyle carried a completely different energy than Michael. She argued that eating food from a Kyle would disrupt her spiritual alignment. The driver Kyle had no control over his birth name. She refused the order until he legally changed it. Can a wrong name on a badge actually break the laws of attraction? 61. A petty woman used the driver as a weapon in a feud. The driver waved politely at her neighbor Mrs. Higgins while walking up. The customer screamed that Mrs. Higgins was her mortal enemy. She claimed that by waving, the driver had chosen a side in the war. She argued that acknowledging the enemy was an act of treason. The driver was just being a nice person to an old lady. The woman refused to tip a traitor who supports her rival. She demanded loyalty from a stranger she met 10 seconds ago. Is a friendly wave actually a declaration of war in the suburbs? And there you have it. 61 reminders that some people really shouldn't be allowed to have Wi-Fi. From murky auras to aggressive punctuation, the audacity is truly off the charts. If these complaints made you question humanity, do me a favor. Smash that like button and subscribe to Ridiculous Complaints right now. Hit the notification bell so you never miss the next meltdown. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the absolute dumbest reason you've ever seen someone complain in real life? Let me know in the comments below. See you in the next one.